Today we are going to be forged carbon fibering the drag wing on my new Edge Mustang. So as you guys know, this thing was white before I took it off of the car, and I also went ahead and spray painted it black just in case when I'm laying these forged carbon flakes, if there was any sort of like see-through spots. I didn't want the white showing through, so that's why we did that. It took me maybe about 2 hours, you know, with the prep and everything. Now I've got it all scratched out so we can actually start laying epoxy resin. So let's get straight into this, and hopefully it turns out pretty decent. This is my second time ever doing forged carbon fiber. I've done it before on door handles. So I actually sanded it all down with a 320 grit. I didn't want to go too aggressive because the white would start showing through. You can see it right there. And I'm also going to key up the surface a little bit more. We're just using an X-Acto, and this will make sure that that resin really sticks in there. You want that resin to stick. If I've watched my carbon fiber composite videos before, you know about the mixing ratios, but I had to do 1-to-1 for this specific resin and hardener. So I'm just spreading it on the wing right now. I mean, I've shown this a million times. So this is like the coat where the flakes are gonna stick to, and you just wanna make sure that you get everywhere. And then we'll let this flash up and dry to a tacky state for about an hour, and then we can put the flakes on. Just about finished up here with laying it out, and then I'll add the green flakes, but check out the wing and how it looks. I mean, that is gonna look so sick on the back of this car. I'm really hoping it turns out 100% because I've never attempted a carbon fiber piece this big. I've only ever done door handles, like I said before, and this is gonna be quite the process to get it done. But you can see why I painted it black, because you are dealing with chopped carbon fiber. You will never get 100% coverage. So I let it get to the tacky state after an hour and a half, and now that it's reached that tacky state, I just place the fibers on top and they're sticking. Take some of these mint green flakes and just haphazardly throw it in there. Not gonna go too overboard. I just want slight mint green accents within the weave so it comes out looking pretty cool. Make sure I get an even spread so it's not one-sided, and then I'll do the sides. So I think that's like literally enough. You don't need to go crazy overboard. I just want a few spackles here and there. I said this already, but you don't want to go run a brush over it right now because you will knock off the flakes. That's why it needs to dry for 12 hours so that epoxy resin really gets hard.
The next day.
Alrighty, so picking it up on the next day, we are now wetting out the carbon fibers. So we're using the same exact ratio of epoxy resin, and we're making sure that all of these fibers that were laid on top are wetted out. So you can see it's officially all wetted out. Now I need to wait 12 hours, or preferably 24 actually. I'm going to the track tonight with the M4. It's right over there. So by the time I come back, we can actually work on this thing again, but it's gonna turn out so sick, I can already tell.
A few moments later.
24 hours of curing. It does look pretty odd. Now this is a very important step. We're gonna take 300 and 220 grit sandpaper and level this all down. You can see it looks very weird, and that's because we need to chop it down and make sure that we get rid of any unevenness in the carbon fiber. So all of this stuff sticking out is gonna be keyed up and removed. Pair of tin snips because I don't want to ruin any pairs of scissors I have. This carbon fiber and epoxy is very sharp. It will dull out any blade that you use, so that's why I'm using this. I don't really care about these, and they're not really supposed to be super sharp. They're supposed to rely on force to cut, so that's what I'm using to trim up the fibers on the edges. And you really want to do this when you sand, so you want it to be clean. You don't want all of that going on there on the edges, and yeah. Now that it's been sanded down, Luke said that it looks like Venom. What? Oh my god. But now we're gonna wipe it clean, get all the dust off of it, and then do 3 layers of epoxy resin. Yeah, so this is pretty much what I was talking about. You just want to take that spray paint and dab it on. It doesn't have to be spray paint. It can be like touch-up paint or something like that. But you literally won't see this when you resin on top. Just want to make sure I don't have any silver or white showing through. I show this because I was not trying to be redundant, but basically I did those 3 layers of epoxy resin, same ratio as before, 1-to-1 after I did all the touch-ups. So we just laid it down. The coats are going to be quite thick, so make sure that you do them quite thick. 3 coats, you got to let them cure for 12 hours, and then after 12 hours we're going to do more sanding. Epoxy resin, or the 3 layers, have cured overnight for 12 hours. I went ahead and picked up this hand sander because apparently it's going to make things a lot easier, and this is a new step now. So we haven't used lower than a 220 grit. Now we're going to be using 120 grit and 240. Never used one of these before, but we'll see how it goes. I've got the 120 grit on there.
2 weeks later.
Decided that I wanted to do a resin pour instead of just brushing it on. And the reason why I'm doing this is to fill in any sort of low spots that we may have. So this is gonna go ahead and do that, get rid of unevenness and that type of stuff. Let's torch it down. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is pretty much what the final result is going to look like with the clear. Oh man, this looks so good, and it all leveled out on me. Side piece here, to get it really nice and smooth, I had to do a lot of spot filling, so that's why you see bits of epoxy resin poured. I did that with the syringe like I did on the main piece to fill out any uneven holes, but it's starting to get super smooth. And now I'm just hitting the whole thing with a 240 grit before the final layer of resin. So literally the last thing of resin is going to be very thin and it's all going to be painted on. The wing is currently looking like, you can tell that there's little bits of unevenness. That's 100% okay because we did use a paintbrush. And now we're going to do a 400 to 1200 grit. So we're going to use 400, 600, 800, 1200, and then do a clear. So we're really going to have to focus on leveling everything out now. Did some wet sanding as just a preliminary last thing to really level everything. This tells you what the final result is going to look like when it's all wetted out. And you can see the areas where the resin got soft, and you know, I had to redo this several times because the humidity was too high. It got weird and it caught some of the sandpaper in there. That's why it's a little hazy like that. But it is what it is. You know, we prevailed at the end of the day and we got an awesome looking forged carbon fiber wing. This was my second time ever working with composites of forged carbon fiber nature, and I only ever did door handles before, never attempted something this big. And now it's time for a clear. Now I don't want to cause any runs, so I think I'm going to be super careful about how I spray this. I might just go like that. I don't want zebra stripes either. I ended up having to sand down the entire clear coat because I did not control the humidity by turning on the AC. So if you don't control the humidity, the clear coat actually can get moisture trapped in it, and it becomes very hazy, almost like a white finish, and kind of satiny. Doesn't look good whatsoever. So I wet sanded the entire wing down again. I got that clear coat off, and this time, in order to mitigate the humidity in Florida, the very high humidity, we are going to turn the AC unit on in the garage and set it to 76 degrees. And this will ensure that we don't have that issue and we actually get a solid clear coat. So what I didn't show on camera was the fact that I refinished the entire bottom side. So I had to mask off all the carbon fiber on top, and I resprayed it black on the bottom, sanded it. So that looks really sweet. We're gonna head into this clear coat, and hopefully we can control the humidity this time and have a nice glossy and glassy finish. Apparently this is the way better clear coat option. It is Spray Max 2K Clear. It has two parts to it, so you have to put the bottom part in, pop it, and then that will release the hardener. So glossy clear coat that we were looking for. So the first time it came out like super hazed up, not good. But I'm gonna do 3 total coats and this will turn out mint.
1 week later.
And throw the wing back on right now. Yes, I know that there's some orange peel in there and a little of unevenness with the clear coat, but that's okay. We will fix that up with a 1200 grit or 1500 grit sanding. We're gonna do wet sanding once again, and then you'll do a buff and polish. But I really want to see what it looks like. You know, I've highly anticipated this moment, what it looks like on the back of the car. So let's get it done. Let's slap it back on. Close this trunk and see what happens. I've got it all mounted again. If I recall correctly, the old taillight had a slit cut out so the wing would fit, and yep, that's an issue. It is making contact right there. That's a pretty relatively easy fix. You can stack washers here to create a bigger gap, and then you won't have a problem with it. But for now, that is in fact a problem. I think it hits on the other side too, maybe? No, it clears on this side, no problem. The game of stacking washers until we have enough clearance. So my guess is gonna take 2 on each side. Exactly where I put those 4 washers, so right in between there, and it is perfect now. So we don't have any more issues with fitment. The trunk closes, it is not hitting, or it barely hits. So still hits right here, but it's like before where it's just the backside touching, and I don't have a problem with that as long as it's not destroying my brand new carbon fiber. So I ended up tossing the washer idea because I thought to myself, if we have a gap there between the wing and the trunk, what's the point of having a drag wing? So the downforce is not going to be generated. It's actually just going to create drag as the air goes in between the gap. So I removed them, retightened the screws, and I think we're gonna have to cut into the carbon fiber and basically trim up one of these sides here so we get full clearance. Unfortunately, that is looking like what I have to do. Buff and polish, I am sanding or wet sanding with 1500, 2000, 3000 grit sandpaper, and then I will take the buff pad out here and get it nice and smooth. This is the first time I'm doing it, so hopefully it goes okay, but you can see I've got it all wet sanded, and I still have a couple more grits to run through, so 2000 and 3000 next. Surprisingly went exactly to plan, so you can see the glassy finish. I just did some of it, and I'm gonna do that area next. Out an S pattern, and then you take the wool pad and start buffing. The before, here's the after. I obviously have never done this before, so I went into it completely blind. I think I may have done it correctly, I don't know, but it looks a lot better than before. There is no more orange peel. And I just wanted to show you guys the final result after you do go ahead and take care of the buffing and polishing to get rid of the orange peel. So obviously it looks 10 times better. There's no more orange peel, and overall it's just more appealing. Like, I don't know about you guys, but that looks a million times better to me. And the camera will never do it justice. It just looks so insane. If you guys enjoyed the process or watching me do this carbon fiber wing, skin the entire thing, remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.